May I invite the presenter, Dr. Pankaj Bagesar, on stage, please. Our moderator, Dr. Ujjal Podar. Panelists, Dr. Vinita Hardikar, Dr. Philip Abraham, Dr. Malati Satyasekaran. The next session is on incidentally detected hepatitis B. What next?
Good morning, presenter, moderator. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay. We are going to have a simple discussion on hepatitis B. There is nothing in this case. As the title said, it is incidentally detected hepatitis B. So already diagnosis is given. Now, what we have to discuss, how to go about it. Pankaj, start.
12 years old boy, second by birth order, admitted with complaint of yellowish discoloration of eyes since 20 days, passing dark yellow urine since 20 days, and history of abdominal pain 15 days back, which lasted for 3 days. There is no history of fever, bleeding, or pruritus, no family history of jaundice, no history of blood transfusion in the past, and patient was not vaccinated for hepatitis A or B. In the past, patient had similar complaints 5 years ago, which recovered completely in a few days but was not investigated at that time. On examination, vitals were stable, icterus was present, no pallor, no lymphadenopathy, no peripheral stigmata of chronic liver disease. In a systemic examination, per abdomen, no distension or dilated veins, umbilicus inverted, soft and non-tender. Liver is 3 centimeters below the costal margin, sharp margins, smooth surface, and firm in consistency with left lobe palpable. Liver span was 9 centimeters. Spleen was 2 centimeters and soft. Rest of the systemic examination was normal. Provisional diagnosis was hepatitis, second episode.
Now hold on. Any thought, sir? Should we ask the audience? This child presented with acute hepatitis now, but in the history there is something happened 5 years back, no records available. So we cannot be sure whether that was acute hepatitis or something else. But considering this history and physical finding, what do you like to think? Is simple acute viral hepatitis or there is a beyond that? We have not said he is hepatitis B positive anyway. What is abnormal in the physical finding which is telling you that there may be something beyond acute hepatitis? Yes, firm liver splenomegaly. Anybody, panelists, you want to add anything at this point?
I was just wondering whether we are listening to a wrong case because the title is incidentally detected and I was wondering whether the wrong case was being presented.
No, it is the right case. Anyway, these are all distractor. Go on. Go on.
Is it chronic liver disease with acute exacerbation? Our differentials were Wilson's disease, autoimmune hepatitis, or hepatitis B.
No, these are in terms of underlying chronic liver disease. Anyway, go on.
We investigated the child. His CBC HB was 12, total counts were 8,500 and platelets were normal, 3.8 lakhs. In LFTs, ALT was 469, AST was 499, total BD was 9.5 with a direct of 3.9. Alkaline phosphatase was 231. Total proteins were 7 gram percent, albumin was 3.8 gram percent, and globulin was 3.2 gram percent.
So, Dr. Philip, with this little bit of information, you will go by our first possibility, or you will think about the second one, acute and chronic, or is it just simple acute?
There are obviously odd features in this patient. Of course, 2 episodes of jaundice in a 12-year-old child could just be 2 episodes of acute viral hepatitis. But the clinical examination showing a firm liver and splenomegaly puts your thought differently. Obviously, there's a chronic liver disease in addition, and we don't know if the flare is part of the natural history of the disease, or in India, very commonly, there was an associated viral hepatitis.
Right.
Now, we have the LFTs here, and the AST, ALT levels are not too high, which means one of 2 things. Either we caught it on the wane, that means the levels were higher initially, we don't know which day this was done.
We have any information after how many days of jaundice you have? 20 days, so that may be a reason.
It could be a reason why it's not too high, because you would expect it in thousands. Or there is an associated chronic liver disease, and this is only a flare of that, or an associated viral hepatitis where you would not get the same high levels as you would get in a straightforward acute viral hepatitis.
Exactly.
Again, the odd features here for a chronic liver disease is that the protein levels are quite good. and the platelets are good, despite there being splenomegaly.
So
But still, with a firm
whatever
liver,
is the chronic liver disease, it is not in a advanced stage because of this normal synthetic function.
yes.
And this enzyme elevation may be the later part of. So what the message is that you have seen the acute hepatitis cases presented yesterday also. When you do it in first week, you will get in thousands. But if you do it later, after 2 weeks, 3 weeks, don't get carried away that this enzyme level is not supporting acute hepatitis. This is later part you have did the investigation, that's why. Okay, next.
USG was done, that was USG abdomen was showing hepatomegaly with normal echo texture and mild splenomegaly. We did serology. Hepatitis A IgM was positive, HBsAg was positive.
Okay, hold on. Malti, what will be your comment with this? Are you happy? You want some more investigation? Or what will be the interpretation in light of this present scenario?
With this serology, we can definitely say that he has this attack of hepatitis could be due to hepatitis A because anti-HAV IgM is positive.
Yes.
And it is not C and anti-HEV negative, so we can exclude superadded E infection. HBsAg positivity definitely gives us a clue that maybe we are thinking of a underlying hepatitis B related disease, and that is why we've thought of that, but we need more markers for that.
So
we
can you tell us, so at this stage, what do you want?
We need HBeAg and we need anti-HB. If you have to do anti-HBC IgM should also be done just to show whether this is recent or past. So first would be anti-HBC IgM, then you do the other antigen HBeAg, and if anti-HBC IgM is negative, then I would definitely do the HBV DNA.
Vinita, will you agree with this? Will you ask for everything or you will go step by step? This is India, this is not Australia. Is getting DNA cost 5,000 rupees.
I'm not sure I'd worry too much because at the moment you've got a child with acute hepatitis A who's probably recovering and you've got plenty of time to work out. I mean, it's probably a chronic hep
No,
B,
to
but
sort
you
out
don't
the
know.
problem whether this B is acute or chronic, what will you do? Will you ask for a whole battery of investigation?
I think I know
DNA?
that this is acute hepatitis A, that the child also has hepatitis B,
Right.
whether it's acute at the same time or whether it's an underlying chronic infection. I don't know what the situation here is, but we never see anybody very sick with hepatitis B, so we don't do anything about it.
Right.
Can I move back to another point that you probably didn't want to make? The previous one with the ultrasound says normal echo texture, but with a mildly enlarged spleen. A lot of our residents say, but the liver echo texture is normal. So the child doesn't have any evidence of liver fibrosis, but they have a big spleen. How is that possible? Ultrasound is a very, very observer-dependent test, and lots of people do ultrasounds. Very, very few people do ultrasounds well. So I believe my hands and the splenomegaly well above the ultrasound.
Right. Philip, will you agree with Malti and Vinita? Well, if the patient comes to you, will you just sit quiet? You don't want to do right now anything, or you want to do something? As far as hepatitis B is concerned.
Two reasons why I would agree with them. One is because they're the majority.
And we're female.
Yeah, that's why I
And
went.
that, fair sex.
And that too is, of course, you're speaking the truth. I agree particularly with Vinita talking about the ultrasound reporting a normal echo texture. Another point I want to make is that this is, what we call a no-brainer approach. You have a person where you suspect liver disease and the lab will do the entire panel for you. We were talking about cost issues, but with a person presenting as an acute hepatitis, 20-day history like an acute hepatitis, why on earth would we look for HCV or HBV unless we are suspecting a recent exposure? The flip side is because they didn't think of it and they asked for it, now we have something new to think about and we have a case for discussion.
Right. Yes, sir. Dr. Yacha.
We should, in this patient, we should do anti-HBC IgM also to see that this is not acute viral hepatitis B. Second comment, it is not necessary we need to have for hepatitis B, if it is a chronic one, we need not have necessarily changes in the echo texture of ultrasound. It may not have gone to that extent to give rise to a chronic liver disease, although there is spleen. Spleen can occur in acute viral hepatitis also, we know it. So that will be a
That's
caveat
true.
in this case. I will do an anti-HBC IgM
okay.
straight away here.
I agree with you. I want to give this message that see, in a acute hepatitis, only HBCG will not tell you whether it is a part of acute hepatitis or it is a chronic. So minimal investigation, I will suggest, probably panelists will not agree with me, to add IgM anti-HBC, not to do E, anti-E, DNA, all these things we can wait. But at least at this stage, yes, Dr.
Yeah, exactly. Meaning, if you're looking for an acute cause for the hepatitis, then surface antigen is not the test. It
Yes.
should be an IgM anti-HBC.
Yeah.
But then we'll have to explain about a parenteral and a
This combination, co-infection. Yeah,
enteral and
that's
parental
it.
routes
But
of
if you
transmission.
don't do IgM anti-HBC and after 6 months HBC become negative, so you don't know whether that was a acute hepatitis or something else. Go ahead.
Can I ask what you're going to do with that information, Ujjwal?
Yes.
Say it's core IgM positive. What are you going to do with that information?
Then I'm happy.
Apart from charging the patient.
No, not charging. That will give the prognostic value. If you have a IgM anti-HBC positive in this patient, it is likely it is acute hepatitis B, is 90% chance he will become negative. So after 6 months, instead of doing whole battery, you will do just HbSAg. So HbSAg will
Why
become
don't you
negative.
not do that and just do the HbSAg in 6 months? Or why don't you just check in 6 months' time? I'm saying, how does it alter your treatment now?
Right. Pros and cons. Not doing Ig and anti-HBC, just do HbSAg after 6 months. It is positive. Then you will go for whole battery of test.
Then
Yes,
they've earned it
acceptable.
then. Yeah.
But to get a exact information whether acute hepatitis due to B or not, I think IgM anti-HBC will be on the card.
Why not to see there is merit on doing anti-HBC IgM now?
Yeah, now we are talking about now.
Now.
Yes,
It's
yes.
important.
No, that
You
is the
not
point.
Go for E antigen, DNA, this and that. It's very important from prognostic points of view.
Yeah, that we are. That is the point we
And
discussed.
patients in India, don't think Indian patients are like that. They are very conscious about hepatitis B.
Yes.
They would like to know what is happening in their child.
Yes.
So in terms of flares of chronic hepatitis B, also anti-core IgM can be positive. So it cannot really differentiate whether it is acute illness or the flare of a chronic.
Yeah, you must be a DM gastro student. we are talking to the general pediatrics. See, that is yes. Answer is yes. But if you take 100 patients of this kind, how many will have flare, how many will have acute, how many will have just simple chronic? So your answer is right, but that is a small subset of patients. We are not discussing that detail of hepatitis B, right? We need to give the guideline so that people don't do mistake. Not to ask for E antigen, DNA every time patient comes with hepatitis B.
No, this case we're thinking of a chronic disease because firm liver and spleen. One poke you're doing anti-HBCM, it becomes negative, you can't tell the parent, see I'm thinking of chronic Hep B also under this child, I want to do it again. That is the reason we have to see what is the status of the hepatitis B. What is that virus doing underneath? If it had been just one attack, then you just stop with anti-HBC. Child had a previous one and this time has come with a firm liver. And this A has just brought out that underlying disease. So that underlying disease also has to be presented to the family to say, see, that liver disease is not quiet. It is doing something. We have to treat that one, not the A. A, we are not bothered.
All right.
A will recover.
Okay. Go on, Pankaj.
Patient was treated symptomatically and he was monitored during the ward stay. Our impression is acute hepatitis A and chronic liver disease, that is hepatitis B. He was followed up with investigations during the ward stay and the LFTs were in the decreasing trend and bilirubin was also in the decreasing trend. 2.4 that was 1 week after the discharge.
You go on because everybody can see it is improved. Next slide.
Patient was followed up after discharge and after 6 months LFTs were normalized completely and HbSAg remained positive.
Okay, Vinita, here
I'm
you
going to
are.
ask you now, I didn't do the core, you did.
Yeah.
What did you
this is
find?
it.
We're still in the same
that-
place.
Now it's you. What will you do next?
Okay, so now you've got somebody who's recovered from hepatitis A and they've got chronic hepatitis B. By definition, they're
Yes, 6
making
months.
surface antigen. So you have to decide what you want to do. Are you just going to watch this person or are you going to treat them? And the way we decide whether somebody's going to be treated, is this the line you want me to go along or not?
Oh, you please carry
Yeah,
on.
all right. So the idea is that you may have to make some criteria about whether you're going to just watch this person or whether you're going to treat them. And that depends on the severity of their liver disease in terms of inflammation, fibrosis, evidence of chronicity, and what treatments you have available to you. So if somebody's very sick but you have no treatments available, obviously you can't treat them. If you have a lot of different treatments that are non-toxic and they're not so sick, you might still treat them because the treatments are available and you can get rid of it. So I guess our approach is really only to treat people with evidence of fibrosis. Now that may differ from the treatment here.
Yeah. No, we want to discuss in different line, because in India, problem is that many of our children comes with this kind of report. LFT normal, HbA1c positive. What will you do? I want some audience participation. This is a very common problem. In your day-to-day practice, you see HbA1c positive, they have come running, sir, HbA1c positive, but LFT is normal. What will you do? Will you investigate, or what Vinita suggested, you wait and watch? If you want to investigate, what will you do next? What investigation do you need to classify this patient, whether he merits treatment or not?
E-antigen, E-antibody, viral load,
Yes.
whether it is immunotolerant or non.
Yes. I think that Philip will agree that we need to do replicating marker at this stage.
Since we said that we are in a teaching session, the first thing, of course, we'd like to know what happened to that sonologist and the sonography. Did the spleen go away? Did the liver improve? Has it gone back to normal? Then we're not talking about chronic liver disease if everything has come to normal, because the blood reports are normal now.
Yes.
Now, then we're talking about an HbSAg incidentally detected where we started.
Yes.
At this stage, of course, it helps to know that the natural history of hepatitis B is in 3 phases. This is, all those who know this, please shut your ears. Immune tolerant, immune active, and then there's the inactive carrier. So at least in the vertically transmitted infections and in those who acquire the infection before the age of 5 years, which probably this patient had, he's very likely to be in the immune tolerant phase. So to complete the picture, to prove that, we need an e-antigen and a virus load. And we would expect in such children that the virus load will be in the millions. Normal enzymes, is that a call to the dance floor? No.
No. we have 4 minutes.
Normal enzymes, very high virus load. You keep monitoring them every 6 months to find out if the enzymes go up. There are exceptions to this rule. If it's immune tolerant, we don't treat them till they manifest with liver disease. If there's a strong suspicion.
GPI. I said accepted.
Oh, I'm not going to discuss that issue. Okay.
Of course, these patients or these children are infective. So although they may be safe, their contacts are not safe. If there is a family history of chronic liver disease, cirrhosis and or HCC, we must keep a closer follow-up, maybe even do an early biopsy and keep monitoring them. Because although they remain in the immune tolerant phase, you don't know when they will convert to the immune active phase. That means liver disease, develop liver disease, and a very small risk, however small, of development of HCC later in life, of course. So they need to be monitored. They can't be ignored. You have to keep a 6-monthly follow-up with enzymes.
What about carrier or low replicating phase? We are talking about a child whose LFT is normal and HbA1c is positive. He may be immune tolerant, where you have a normal LFT and high DNA, you don't treat. He may be in the other side, he may be a low replicating inactive carrier, what we used to call. So low replicating, again you have normal LFT, but his DNA will be negative or very low. So that part also needs, Dr. Philip, to be
The
looked
inactive
at.
carrier, in both these, that is the immune tolerant and the inactive carrier, the enzymes are normal, transaminases. But the immune tolerant will have a high viral load, the inactive carrier will have a low viral load.
Malti, you want to add anything?
Yeah, so I agree with that, what he's saying. I think it's made it very clear. So you look at the liver status using the surrogate markers of OTPT, and then you look at the viral status, whether it's multiplying or not. The only thing is we realize hepatitis B is a dynamic virus. So inactive HbA1c carrier, we can't sleep because at any point of time, it can go back. So that is very, very important. It may be a low viral load, but it can change.
Okay, so the message we want to give here. If the patient comes to you with HbA1c positive normal LFT, he probably will not require treatment, but to qualify whether he is in a very high DNA with immune tolerant phase or he is a simple case of carrier, you need to do DNA, e-antigen, anti. Panelists agree? Okay, go ahead. So this is the parameter we got for the patient. Okay.
So HB antigen negative, HB DNA was 1200 international unit per ml, and ALT was 34 and AST 23.
What will qualify to what, Vinita? Is fall into carrier or is a immune tolerant or immunoreactive?
So his liver function tests are normal.
Normal.
His e-antigen status is negative,
Negative.
so his body has developed antibody. Is there any
We
antibody or
have
not? Do you have any antibody?
Okay, it is not done, but we
Okay,
assume it is
so
positive.
normally you assume that the body has recognised the virus and produced E antibody, and so the E antigen level is none. So he's passed through the immunotolerant, possibly through the immunoactive, which we didn't see, and has moved into the next stage. Now, the only thing is now, I don't know
DNA.
what's your DNA levels that are normal. I don't know do you have a less than? So this is a low grade DNA level, or what?
Yeah, it is
Because we
low.
have a less than
No,
600 is almost undetectable at the level at the test, or
No,
not?
we qualify less than 2000 IU as low.
HBeAg negative.
As okay, all right. So okay. So the other thing to do then is to watch the DNA level here, because when it's very low, the body has immune control. The body has immune control, virus is in very low state. But if at any stage, as Dr. Malthi was saying, this is a lifelong disease, hepatitis B, we can't cure it. So at any stage the virus may mutate and produce a different type of E antigen negative virus, the DNA will go up again, the liver function test will become abnormal again.
Okay, this is another part we have not discussed, E negative disease, where the picture will be just like carrier. They are E antigen negative, antibody positive, but they will have liver disease, so SGOTPT will be higher, DNA level will be higher than more than 2000, so you need to differentiate. So to categorize the patient, whether he is a immune tolerant, or he is a immune reactive, whether inactive carrier or E negative disease, to categorize any of these four category, you need to do DNA, E antigen, anti-E at any point of time patient coming to you. At least baseline you need to have, then we can formulate the protocol for follow-up. Next. Okay, we discussed. So, no replicating. Okay. Sir.
There is still a caveat in this case. You'll tell me why. I would say, let us say, this was a case of acute hepatitis B now. 6 months down the line is positive. But 10% of the cases will still might clear in another 6 months' time. So we are not sure whether it's a resolving acute hepatitis B which has gone beyond 6 months, or it's a chronic hepatitis B infection. That still remains a question. Therefore, the follow-up, maybe another 6 months down the line now, would probably clear.
Sir, you are right about this figure of 90% and 10%, but those 10% they don't clear. They remain positive. Once you cross that 6 month barrier, then spontaneous negativity of HBC rate is very low.
Very low.
1% per year. So it's not that after 6 months you repeat and HBC will become negative.
To label a patient chronic hepatitis B when you're diagnosed for the first time.
6 months?
6 months.
After 6 months?
6 months surface
recommendation is to
antigen.
wait for another 6 months. If you see
No, we have
the
waited for
guidelines,
6 months.
You have to wait for another 6 months before you actually label them as chronic hepatitis B.
Right.
infection. Maybe they will clear in another 6 months.
Next slide.
Sir, one more question. Sir, if patient is not affordable and only he can do HBeAg. Hello? Hello? If patient is not affordable, sir, only he can affordable for HBeAg and antigen and he can't affordable for HBV DNA. Should it be enough to do HBe or should we always do?
No. See, the best investigation to classify this patient is DNA. E antigen, see the E negative disease, you will be E antigen negative. Carrier, E antigen negative. How do you differentiate between these two? You can't. Yes, you cannot differentiate between immune tolerant also and immunoreactive. Both the state E antigen positive. So we have the 4 sets of situation where in the 2 E antigen will be negative and another 2 antigen will be positive. So you can grossly demarcate between all these 4. So only the DNA with E antigen will help you. So this combination is required. I can understand the economics, but to go in a scientific way, you need to do.
Can
at
I
least
make
once.
a comment about
Yes.
that from an economical point of view? If you've got somebody who's poor, all you want to do is decide whether they're going to die from the hepatitis B or not, whether you need to intervene. So if you've got somebody who's poor and you're worried about what status they're in and you can only afford E antigen and they're E antigen negative, all right, then you can assume that they are in past the immunoactive phase, and then all you want to know is, are they developing E antigen negative hepatitis B disease or not? Not if they're an active carrier, you don't care. And the way you can distinguish there is by using your liver function tests, which are cheap. When the liver function tests start to become abnormal, then you can push to get the DNA perhaps.
Every
That
6
would
months
be
we
an
should do
economic argument.
Oh, wow.
You wouldn't do it every 6 months. You can just do the liver function tests
Yeah, yeah.
by themselves.
Sir, one more question.
One simple question. As a clinician, you are saying that chronicity is at around 6 months. I would do something after 6 months. In this case, you are labeling the acute episode as hepatitis A. How do you know that that was a 6 months, like the hepatitis B was positive for the last 6 months? You don't have the evidence. So Dr. Vinita said, I will wait for 6 months more. So are we justified? So it could be that 6 months of hepatitis B, you are sitting on 6 months of hepatitis B, and that is the time when you have picked it up, and you are the other things on the A. So are we justified waiting 6 months?
Is there, okay.
I'm not. I don't need to be defended. I can defend myself. I'm not entirely sure I understood the question, but my understanding here was that 6 months later the surface antigen was still positive. So this is chronic hepatitis B. Is that what was the question you were asking?
When the patient came to you,
yes,
there was
and
a
they
firm
have
liver
yes,
and a spleen.
Yes,
you have diagnosed it as a probable acute hepatitis A.
Correct.
You don't know whether it was a chronic hepatitis B that the patient is positive
at that point.
HbSAg for the last 6 months or
Correct.
7 months.
Correct.
So you said do not investigate at this stage.
Correct.
The other statement was made that at 6 months of hepatitis B positivity, you are supposed to sort of wake up and try to analyze the patient immunocompetent, not immunocompetent.
Correct.
So this patient could have been positive for the last 7 months, HbSAg positive.
Correct.
He has come to you with an A. That time you
Yes.
have woken up.
Yes.
You said don't investigate. So how
Yes.
do you know? Like,
no,
well, I'm justifying it based on cost and economics and the fact that I can't do anything much about hepatitis B unless it's very significant. I know the abnormal liver function tests are hepatitis A. I suspect he's got chronic hepatitis B because he's got some, I agree with Professor Yacha, splenomegaly can be acute hepatitis as well, but he's got some suspicion. He's had a previous episode of hepatitis in the past, he's got a bit of a spleen. You suspect that he has chronic hepatitis B clinically, but to prove it biochemically, given that he's not been tested before, you're absolutely right, he could have had it 7 months, he could have had it for 5 years, but to prove it in a textbook manner, you need HBS surface antigen positivity for 6 months. So what I'm saying is that if that was the cheapest test that's available to you, you can do that test alone 6 months apart and make your diagnosis.
All right,
provided
Ashley,
the
you want to
patient
make
is
a
not
comment?
well.
Ashley?
Good. This is nothing to do about the antigens and the virus. This is about the comment that Dr. Vinita's comment on ultrasound and its value or no value. We're learning from following our patients after liver transplantation that ultrasound, apart from just the objective view of the brightness of the liver, will also give valuable information if you look at portal blood flow. Portal blood flow is a more objective measure to tell you whether there's hyperdynamic or resistance flow early in the stage of fibrosis when it's taking place. And later on when there's reversal and there's arterialization of the liver, you can very well quantify that. So I think this is becoming a weapon in the field of ultrasonography to give us more objective evidence of what's going on in the long-term follow-up of patients who have such type of chronic liver disease.
All right, I think we overshot time. Go back to the previous slide. See what we are discussing about doing this test. So this is the fourth scenario. You will get, if you do replicating marker and LFT. Our panelists will agree with me that the hepatitis B goes through the step-by-step, one stage to the other. First one is the immune tolerant. If it is a perinatally acquired, it goes on for decades. But in older children or adult, this is a short phase during incubation period. Then they go into the immune clearance or immunoreactive phase, where you will have the disease. Means patient is icteric and all these things. Then the patient will go into either to low replicating phase, which is commonly called as carrier, or after many years of carrier state, they can go into the E-negative disease. Now all these stages has got clinical implication and prognostication. So to classify a child, he falls into the which category, you need to do E antigen, You need to do DNA, you need to do ALT. This is a very simplified algorithm. If you can get it into your mind, it is very easy to qualify. Now, what is the connotation? If you have an immune tolerant child, this patient is not immune tolerant, then you don't treat right now. You wait, you monitor. What will you monitor? What Malti said, SGO, TPT is the right investigation. You do just ALT 6 monthly, yearly. Whenever there is a surge of ALT, then you look for whether the patient has gone into the immunoreactive phase or not, and then you treat. Immunoreactive phase is the case where you have to treat. The patient body is trying to get rid of the virus, you help. Low replicating carrier, you don't do anything, just yearly or 2 yearly ALT. Anytime ALT is going up, you have to think patient has gone into E-negative disease or reverted back to immunoreactive phase. Any of these can possibly in a carrier state, but host majority of carrier remains carrier throughout the life, so don't get panicky. Third stage E-negative disease is a disease. Again, it is like a immunoreactive phase. This is a disease, but E antigen is negative. Here you have to treat. So the out of all 4, at this present situation when the patient is coming to you, if they are into the immunoreactive phase or E-negative disease, you have to treat. Other 2 does not merit treatment, right? So message is clear. Any patient coming to you, ALT normal, HbA1c positive, you need to go ahead and get the replicating marker. I hope our panelists will agree with me.
Just one point. This child obviously fits into the third group
Yes,
by
carrier.
appearances. It's a little early in life for him to have done that. So you obviously should screen to find out where he got this infection from. Vertical. So you need to screen the first degree family members, number 1.
Yes.
He's already had his Hep A, otherwise you would also screen him for a Hep A and vaccinate him too. Number 3 is inactive carriers is not a totally benign condition. You keep monitoring the ALT, but you also need to do the AFP because there's a risk that they also could develop HCC.
Right. Abha will finish. We have taken extra time. Thank you, everybody.